watched my dad, I watched my uncle, I watched my grandpa leave the house at 5 a.m., come home at 7 p.m., day in and day out, paperwork on the weekends. For what? 120 grand a year? For the people who are out there wanting to scale and sell but don't know how.
Yeah.
I can give them a step-by-step blueprint.
All right, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Lead God Podcast. Today, we got Nick Long. Nick Long is a very special entrepreneur, and you guys are going to find out why. But just to give you a quick little background on the guy's a serial entrepreneur, ran multiple 8-figure-year businesses, has founded entrepreneurial boot camps, and now he runs a private equity company. So these are the type of people that we want to have on the show that not only have the successes, but they have the challenges as well. How they bounce back from challenges and obstacles in their life to get to the next phase. So I'm extremely excited to have Nick on the show. And Nick, thank you so much for joining the Lead God Podcast.
Actually, the honor is all mine, dude. I've been watching you, cheering you on. I was actually like, is he going to call me and invite me on the podcast?
Yeah, I know, man. I had to wait till I got my bearings underneath me a little bit. You know what I mean?
All good, man. You know, there's nothing I love more than doing these type of conversations. So I'm so stoked, man. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. So we've known each other for a little bit, but just to give people the background, I want to kind of dive into how you got into entrepreneurship, where you grew up. So let's start off there. Where did you grow up at? Where are you from?
Yeah, so I would say like where I grew up was Chino Hills, but I lived in the Inland Empire, 909. I'm a 909 kid by heart, transferred to the 949 Newport Beach. So I like to say like, I made it, mama. Look, mom, I made it. So I was born in Upland, lived in Ontario. Then I spent most of my formative years in Chino Hills, California.
Okay, cool. And did you grow up in a normal middle-class family? How was that kind of upbringing?
Yeah, so I'm one of 4. I'm actually a twin. It's a fun fact. A lot of people don't know that about me. I don't have a twin brother. I have a twin sister. And, for those of you listening that are asking yourself this, no, we're not identical. Physically impossible. And I don't identify as that. So, yeah, no, I have a twin sister. So technically I'm a middle child, but like mathematically, because I was born 6 minutes later, I'm the 3rd child. Parents weren't rich, weren't poor. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. Dad was a hardworking son of a gun. He was not college educated, but my dad made his first 6-figure year probably back in 1988. So that was a big deal,
Yeah.
And that was back when 6 figures was that's the thing you were shooting for,
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really know much about wealth or money. We kind of were the family that, we were doing better than most in the neighborhood, but there was always those handful of people that were doing intrinsically better than us.
Yeah, so you didn't really have someone in your close vicinity as far as being in that entrepreneurial pool.
No, I'm first generation entrepreneur. My little brother's an entrepreneur, but I think he sort of looked at what I was doing in my early 20s, and he decided to make that jump and leap, and he's done very well. But I would say he and I are first generation, entrepreneurs. My dad was one of those guys just work harder than anybody else, be ethical, be a man of your word, show up early, stay late, outwork the guy to your left and your right, and pretty soon you'll be managing the guys to your left and your right, My dad was money driven. He ran our house like a business. So we definitely understood the importance of money. We understood the importance of you borrow $1, you pay back $2 type of thing. And we understood the value of hard work, but didn't know anything about being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And I think just even that foundation, your foundation does shape a lot of how you act, right? Later in your life. 100%. And having a father like that was instilled kind of the hard work ethic, regardless if you're a business owner or part of a company or whatever it is, you're instilling kind of the work ethic value, which is,
my dad definitely taught us the value of $1 and hard ass work. Those two things, as far as business acumen was concerned, money matters, and if you work hard, you'll never be without it, right? But he worked his way, from basically from the bottom of a company to become a senior vice president. Unfortunately, my dad was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis right around when he was his late 30s, and so he was on the come up of his career, and so his career got ended short. And so he never really got to reap the benefits truly of his hard work. I do believe that my dad would have been a millionaire, but unfortunately he was retired longer than he was working because of his illness.
Yeah. Well, I think that, that instills something into you where you can pass down to your kids. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
100%,
how you
man.
got brought up. I had a lot of brothers and sisters growing up, and they're all older than me. And the one thing all my brothers used to tell me was take the pain.
Take the pain. I like that.
Take the pain, right? Like we're playing football in the street, take the pain, right? But I think it's just like you get these little things instilled into you that eventually you start to see them later in life. And that's sometimes it's good, positive, and negative.
You know what's crazy is my dad, like hybrid dad. I'd say he's a lot of old school, with a little bit of new school. I would say like I'm a lot more new school with like that old school, like tough values, with my kids and stuff. So, I mean, my older brother, he ended up becoming a U.S. Navy SEAL, and then he was a private contractor for the U.S. military. Now my brother does executive protection for billionaires, a lot of which you would know by name. I can't mention them. But my brother was tough, and there's not that much like gap between us. And so we would fight each other. We would fight the neighborhood kids. Like my dad would resolve like conflict between me and my brother with boxing gloves. And he'd put us out in the backyard and say, go. And we would literally fight each other until we were punched out. And then we'd sit down and he would talk to us about, who was right, who was wrong, how to resolve it. But we were taught just to fight. Like we were scrappy. Like, and I actually attribute a lot of my success and the comebacks and failures that I've had to that scrappiness and being willing, as you said, to take the pain. And actually, like the only way you get the pain is you're willing to get in the fight. Fight for your marriage, fight for your physical body, fight for the relationships, and fight for your place in business. Like it's a fight.
Yeah, and I think that's why I like to touch on, the more I've been talking to a lot of these high net worth and high value entrepreneurs, and it just how they grew up, it really does change a lot of what they're doing right now, right? And I can see it in my own life, but yeah, man, thanks for sharing that. And
I love it.
What was the transition into the entrepreneurial venture? Because there's something at some point that got you into thinking like, hey, I want to start a business. What was that point in your life that made you make that transition?
Yeah, so it was like my first entrepreneurial journey was quite unique, but I'd say like I would say that entrepreneurs are bred, and they're partially bred, they're partially born, but I would say they're more bred than they are born, right? And so what happened is when we moved to Chino Hills, we moved from Ontario, California to Chino Hills, and it was like brand new bedroom community. And it was the first time I actually saw gated communities, and I saw custom homes, right? And I was like, whoa, what are those? And they're massive. And so I met this guy, and I went over to his house, my kid my age. I went over to his house. House was huge. I mean, like 8,000 square feet, 6-car garage, 3 cars on each side. Like they had all the toys, and he had all the toys, massive pool with a rock waterfall that we were jumping off of. And I was like, damn, dude, this is crazy. I'd never seen something like this except for on the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and, on MTV Cribs. And I go, what does your dad do? Like, I was just curious, what does your dad do? And he's like, my dad's an entrepreneur. And I'm like, oh, but I had no idea what that word meant. I thought like an entrepreneur was something like architect, engineer, lawyer. So I started telling everybody like, I'm going to go to school to be an entrepreneur. And the people that were entrepreneurs would laugh. And they're like, dude, the school for being an entrepreneur is right where you're standing. It's the street. And I was like, what? I didn't get it. But it was implanted in me that the path that my dad was on wasn't going to get like that type of lifestyle. Right. And so like my dad worked for somebody, and an entrepreneur was somebody that worked for themselves. So I had that distinction early on as a young man. So my initials are NJL, Nicholas Joseph Long, right? So I remember being like in class, my mind would wander, and I would draw this logo over and over again, and it was an N, right? And then off of the one point of the N was a J, and off the other point was an L. So it kind of created like this like triangular looking logo, and I would put Inc. down below, NJL Inc. And I just knew that I was going to have my own business, but it didn't really like click and set in until I was probably like 20 years old. And So I had gone to school I'd gone away on a wrestling scholarship. I was an NCAA wrestler. I got a full ride, half athletic, half scholastic. So I was always did well in school. And again, I took that scrappiness to the mat, and I took that scrappiness to my books, and and then I paved my way, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't like, and I wasn't good enough at wrestling to like make a career out of it. And the UFC wasn't cool back then, so there was no pathway. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm sorry, can I cuss on your podcast?
Of course.
Okay. So I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I want to get to work. I want to make money, And so I transferred back home. I transferred home. I went to Cal State Fullerton, and I wanted to get a job, and I wanted to be a marketer. I just knew that I loved marketing, and I loved influence, and I loved sales. So I called up my uncle, who at the time was the CEO of a large food marketing company. It's a food broker, actually, and that was our generational business. So I was fifth generation. My great great grandfather, my great great grandfather, my great grandfather, my grandfather, my dad, and my uncle, and then me. Now, I was in the food industry, and
wow.
It was distilled from my great great grandfather. He owned like a chain of grocery stores, or he actually ran a chain of grocery stores. I shouldn't say he owned it. Down to my dad, and what was instilled in us is like, hey, in the food industry, everybody needs to eat. And they said, you work hard enough, you'll get rich, you'll probably never be wealthy, but you'll never go hungry. Ha ha ha, in the food industry, right? And so that was just sort of like what we did. Like our last name, the long last name, was like synonymous in the food industry. So
wow.
it'd be like, I don't know, it'd be like, an actor, being like, if my last name was McConaughey, it would open up a lot of doors because, the McConaughey's before me kind of paved the way. So I called up my uncle. I'm like, look, I'm getting my degree, but I want to reshuffle my schedule and I want to work full time. When I come out of college, I don't want to be looking for a job. I want to be on my way up in a meteoric career. And he's like, all right, yeah. He goes, how's your computer skills? Like, oh, they're bar none. Like, you should see me on a computer. I'm a whiz bang, click, click, type. Don't even worry about me. And he's like, okay, cool. Well, we got a job. It's for a category analyst. I was like, yeah, I love analyzing categories. I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. But I knew that if I got in there, I could be scrappy and I could really, really do well.
Yeah, you had the passion.
Yeah. So long story short, faked my way through the interview, got in there on day one, and this young guy, his name's Josh, he's actually a good friend of mine to this day. He goes, dude, I heard you're a whiz kid on the computer. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, show me what you can do. And I was like, are you ready? And he's like, yeah. And I hit the on button, and he's like, all right. And I'm like, that's it. And he's like, dude, what? He leans in, he's like, dude, how'd you get this job? I was like, because I wanted this job. I was like, I need this job. I was like, bro, just teach me. I'm hungry. I'll learn. I promise I'll make you look good, And so he did.
Love that.
And dude, I ended up becoming the youngest sales manager in that company. Youngest sales manager. So at 20 years old, I was making $80,000 a year. Dude, this is
wow.
This is 24 years ago. This is 1999.
Yeah.
$80,000 a year.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Ken, and I'm getting to the point, was I walked around and I saw all of these people in cubicles, and they looked like mini jail cells to me. Mm-hmm. They looked like mini jail cells, and I'm like, I watched my dad, I watched my uncle, I watched my grandpa leave the house at 5 a.m., come home at 7 p.m., day in and day out, paperwork on the weekends. For what? 120 grand a year? I was like, there's got to be a better way. And then, dude, all of a sudden I was like, oh, NJL Inc. I need to start my own business. So the guy who's signing my paycheck owns this business,
mm-hmm.
So I had this aha moment, and lo and behold, as you put it out there, abundance, God, the universe provides. This, I met this guy. He was from Europe, and we don't have time to go into the story and how I met him. But I met him. I was 21 at the time. He was 23, turning 24 at the time, and he was manufacturing energy efficient light bulbs.
Dude,
this is, keep in mind, this 24 years ago, right? This is
Yeah.
before LEDs, but he was from Europe. He was from Denmark, and he was manufacturing these energy efficient light bulbs, and he was selling them at retail in Europe. And in his first year, he sold well over 1 million light bulbs. And I'm like,
Wow.
the light bulb literally had gone off in my head and my heart. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, how much margin are you making on this thing? He's like, we make, about $1.80 per light bulb. I'm like, I'm not good at math. That's 1.8 million,
Yeah.
Like, I'm in. What do we got to do? He's like, well, I want to get these into retail. And I was like, dude, I'm your Huckleberry. Like, I'm in retail all the time. I said, look, you can't afford me and I can't afford to quit my job. I said, but give me this light bulb. Let me take it with me on my sales calls and let me see if there's any interest. So Europe has always been ahead of us, like ecologically, right?
Yeah.
And so I would go into my normal sales calls and I'd pull out my household brand. So I was I was a sales manager for like Clorox bleach, and they own a lot of brands. They own Kingsford Charcoal, they own Casey Masterpiece, they own Hidden Valley Ranch. So I'd be doing my Clorox thing and Mr. Corporate Guy and my business casual, and then I'd put all my shit away, and like as I was leaving, and you were my buyer, I go, hey Ken, what do you think about this, man? Like this energy efficient light bulb. Like, what do you think about this? Like I've got a company that's wanting me to sell this for them, but I don't want to really take the risk, and I really value your opinion, Ken. Well,
yeah.
Actually what I was doing is I was like doing
It's a great pitch.
Yeah, and because dude, you ask for people's advice, they give you their money. You ask for their money, they give you their advice, right? So I asked for their advice, and then this one guy, like everybody was like, wow, man, I love those, but they're too expensive. I love those, but they're too expensive. We need to shift. Like, this is when the energy crises were first starting. We need to shift, but we can't afford them. One guy, I can't say his name, but because he works for a well-known grocery chain, pretty big one, and he was just a buyer at that time. He goes, dude, like, I would buy those tomorrow if I could get the right price. And I've got the price sheet, I got the price sheet like in my hand, not really, but like I have it in my mind. I'm like, well, curious, like how much do you need to buy them for, right? Ask the questions, extract the ammunition. And he goes, I need to buy them for, I forget what it was, bro. Let's just pretend I need to buy them for $3 because I want to retail them for $6. Dude, our cost on them were like 60 cents,
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'm doing like cartwheels on the inside. I'm like, what if I could get you that price point? And he's like, you probably can't, but if you could, I'd order some tomorrow. I'm like, how much would you order? He's like, at that price point, 30,000 pieces. I was like, what if it could be better than that price point? And he's like, I'd order way more. So I'm like, all right, let me see what I can do. Dude, I couldn't leave his office fast enough. I'm like running, and this is like before like the smartphones were really smart, and my partner's in Denmark. He's like, I'm like trying to get a hold of him, Skype, all this shit, call me. He finally like wakes up and calls me, and I was like, dude, we can get an order, like we can sell them for $2.80. He's like, get the hell out of here. There's no way you could sell them for $2.80. I'm like, whatever it was. I'm like, yes, we can. He wants to order a minimum of 30,000. Like, done, do it. I'm like, well, I'm not going to call him just yet. So I waited a couple of days, and then I called him back, and I'm like, hey, you know that price point you wanted? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I got it better for you, but you have to order a minimum of 60,000 units. I had nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I'll order 100,000 units. And I'm like,
wow.
The fuck, dude? I was tripping. So, dude.
Where'd you learn all these sales ability? I mean, you're pretty like crafty. And for not doing, you're a sales manager, right? So
yeah.
I'm sure you learned some chops when you were managing these people. But is it kind of like a natural gift for you as well?
So I think I've always kind of had like the gift of gab a little bit, but I've been working on it for a long time, and so when I went into that company, that big corporate company, I volunteered for all the different like boards that they had, like the culture board and this, because I wanted to learn, I wanted to soak it all in, and then I was looking at so I was 20 at the time, like the next oldest sales manager was probably 35, 34, which might as well have been like a fucking dinosaur to me at that time when I'm 20 and you're looking at someone that's 35. Yeah. Now I'm 44 looking like, at you as like a kid, And so So anyways, I would just hang out with these guys. Dude, Ken, my wife laughs about this because I would take a empty manila folder and I would shove like a couple pieces of paper in there. There was literally nothing in there. And I would walk around the office like I had to go deliver something. And then I would stop like strategically at the top sales guys, and I would just shoot the shit with them. And I'd pick their brain. And then I'd say, hey, do you need anything? And they'd go, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, what are you working on? Oh, I'm working on this presentation. I'd go back to my desk. I'd fucking fire off like a cool like data analysis project. And I go, hey, Ken, here's like, dude, take this to your presentation. I think it might help. And they'd be like, Nick, what the hell? That's really cool, man. Can I buy you lunch? And I'm like, yeah, let's go to lunch. And then I would just soak it up, dude. There was no YouTube. There was no, Instagram.
You just wanted it, so you just got in. You knew that you just needed to get integrated into the company and just to learn, essentially how to get to the next level, right?
Yeah. So I was hungry.
You had that drive to do that.
100%. So, dude, now go back to our story, right? That first sale, like netted me personally as a 21-year-old like young college student. I think I netted like 130 grand.
Wow.
In my pocket.
That's life-changing.
Bro, like it is, because we wouldn't be on this call if like it hadn't happened, right? So I called my business partner and I was like, hey, look, like let's take your money and my money that we just made on this. Let's throw it into a company. I will quit everything. I will quit school. I was actually managing a valet parking company. I'll quit everything. I will go all in on this. And he's like, all right, like let's do it. And I was like, but we're partners, And he's like, well, here's the thing, is we need to raise $3 million. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, we need to raise $3 million. This is $3 million, in 1999, 2000. I'm like, all right, I can do it. And he's like, what do you mean you can do it? I was like, I can do it. And he's like, no. I was like, why do we need it? He's like, well, they put all these tariffs and taxes out of stuff coming out of China into the EU, the European Union. So we need to go to Vietnam and we need to open up a factory in Vietnam. I'm like, okay.
Oh my God.
Let's do it. Dude, I'm 20. I was probably.
You're chasing that 130.
Bro, I probably was like so naive. Like if you would have told the 44-year-old version of me, you need to go open a production facility in Vietnam, raise $3 million, and you're gonna get into a retail product with like heavy inventory, I'd be like, I'm out, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't know any better. I had nothing to lose, and I was freaking hungry, and I was scrappy, right?
Yeah.
Like I was ready to feel the pain. So I dropped everything, dude. We raised the $3 million. Like I think it took me 6 months, 7 months. We opened the production facility in Vietnam. We scaled that company. Like it was fucking wild, dude. Like wow. I was a millionaire on paper by the time I was 24 years old. Not in my bank account.
And that's probably a great. I mean, that you can't ask for a better opportunity that you seized to jump in, create value within another guy's organization, then convince him to partner up with you on a new venture and then scale that company. And
dude,
that just takes that street level awareness,
Everybody comes empty-handed.
Yep.
Like I am such a relationship equity guy. I'm such a reciprocity guy. Like when those sales guys, when I would go to them, it'd take me 30 minutes. Maybe I have to stay after work 20 minutes, right? And make a report, and I'd put it on their desk with a Post-it note. Bro, that deposit like allowed me to withdraw so much information from them. And they thought like I was doing them a favor. They were doing me a massive favor. Same thing with this guy. He's like a lot of people are like, okay, I can sell your light bulbs. Pay me $10,000 up front and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey, just give it to me. Let me see what I can do. And more importantly, let me show you who I am. So that
when I value.
Yeah, when I came with the big ask, it was a resounding yes.
Yeah. I always tell guys in my organization, like, this is not my company. This is your company. You guys can create little departments, organizations within our company, and you can ultimately write your own paycheck because we're looking to, scale and grow the company, right? So
listen, you heard that
finding those people is hard.
Yeah,
I know it's not as easy as just finding, stumbling across it.
You heard that talk that I just did for, one of my clients' companies, and it was like, hey, all of you need to look at yourself as a CEO, the CEO of your own life, right? The chief enterprise officer of your life. Like, because you are an enterprise. It's like Jay-Z says, I know it's cheesy, but I'm not a businessman. I am a business man, right?
Yeah.
Like, and
Hmm.
so, like, that's what people don't understand. And that's why, like, dude, like, some of these younger bucks that are coming up, I'm like, you guys are so selfish and greedy. Like, dude, build relationships. Relationships are the new equity, bro. They have always been, and they will stand the test of time. The fads will come and go, but this, like, what you and I have built, what we're building, will last the test of time. And like, you and I collaborating together will make infinitely more money than you and I jockeying for, like, the same market share.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that, and I think that's why you're at where you are right now in your life because you've been a testament to that. So let's take it back. So you got the light bulb sold, the company's growing. How'd you get into the next kind of phase into your entrepreneurial career? Because I know you have a couple different businesses after that. So what was
Yeah,
that
dude.
transition that went into more of the new kind of career path you went into?
Yeah, so that was that company was the first time I learned about exits, right? And that was my first exit. I've had four. I've been telling people three, but I forgot about the most recent one, and I'll tell you why. But anyway, so I've had four exits. That was my first one, and I didn't realize about exits, and I was learning about equity. There's no book that, like, I mean, there are now, but there was really no books that, like, taught you about this. So we grew so fast, and we went on an acquisition spree, and we didn't really know, like, what we were doing. Most of the money that we raised came from guys that were like my dad that worked in a company. They made some money, so none of them were entrepreneurs. We were trying to run the company like it was a big company, not a startup company, and we ran out of cash. We acquired companies. We thought they could go from prototype to production. They couldn't. We tied up a lot of our, like, cash on betting on those companies, and so we ended up with credit lines tapped. Investors didn't want to put in any more money, and we ended up selling the company to the guy I co-founded it with for $1 and the assumption of all the debt. So
Wow.
here I am, 25, almost 26 years old, put, my life's work, but I was still young at the time, into that company. I have $100,000 of debt because I borrowed money to buy more equity, because I was, when my share options were at $60. We were selling them for $800, I didn't understand equity, but I understood math. And so I was like, pay 60 for 800? Yeah, absolutely. So I borrowed a bunch of money. So I'm in debt. I'm working at a pizza place on Main Street in Seal Beach, like, for literally $10 under the table, because I put myself on unemployment through the company, and I was broke, dude. I was broke, and I was like, shit, dude, I fucked up, right? Damn it. Like, everybody was killing it in the mortgage industry. My twin sister's killing it in the mortgage industry, and I'm working at a pizza place.
Yeah.
Like, would you like pepperoni with that? Was, like, the thing I said the most, on a daily basis. And
Yeah.
so, but I had that bug, man. I had that bite. I had that taste of blood. I knew what felt like, to emotionally be a millionaire, on paper. And I was like, I'm not going back. Like, my mom begged me to go back and become a sales manager. My dad begged me to go back into the food industry. I'm like, no, I am in the food industry. I'm making pizzas. And they're like, no, like, get a real job. And so, anyway, ironically enough, throughout my journey, even though I quit college, Cal State Fullerton had me come twice to be a professor for the day, to teach
Hmm.
marketing, to teach entrepreneurialism, because there was no class. It's the school of hard knocks. So they had me come in and teach the class. One of the kids in the class started his own business, and I just remember him, like literally taking copious notes, and asked for my phone number, and I gave him mine, and or I gave him my phone number. I got his. So I reached out to him, and I was like, yo, like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't care. Like, I need something that I can get excited about. And as long as you're an entrepreneur, like, I'm your huckleberry, And
Hmm.
he's like, dude, I'm so glad you called. He's like, I was literally thinking about you. He's like, I didn't know what you were doing, but, like, come work for me. I'm like, look, I'm gonna not work for you. I will work with you. Like, and we need to figure out a way to get me equity. I will earn every last bit, but, like, I'm not an employee. I'm an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. And he's like, let's go. And I just trusted him, trusted the process. So when I got to him, he had a marketing and lead gen company, right? You're the lead guy. And so, you know, we got into marketing and lead gen. When I got there, he was doing about $100K a month in revenue. And
So it's pretty good business.
yeah, great business. And I was like, all right. And I kind of looked, and like what I've been really good at, Ken, is like coming in and like seeing the label from outside the jar, right? Entrepreneurs are very much in their own jar, and they can't really get a 360 degree view because they have stories. They're emotionally committed to like why things can or can't work, or how, or why they're not done a certain way, right? But I can come in not emotionally attached to the business, like very, very viscerally driven to the outcome, right? And when I'm driven to the outcome, I end up generating a lot of income, right? And so I came in and dude, within 6 months, like together, like where two or more minds are gathered, there's a third mind called the mastermind. Napoleon Hill is famous for quoting that. And together with our two minds and our third mastermind, we took that company to $500,000 a month in 6 months. And I'm 26 years old.
That's rapid.
Yeah. But what, dude, like it is and it isn't. When you have the right recipe, you have the right team, you have the right formula. Like if you can get to $100,000 a month, you can get to $1 million a month. You get to $1 million a month, you can get to $10 million a month. It's the same shit. It's just, you know, just different levels, right? And so anyway, like we were crushing, dude. And I was getting a very small salary and mostly upside on like commission, right? And so I ended up going to him and said, hey, look, like I don't need $30,000 a month. I don't need $40,000 a month. Like I want equity, you know? And because I knew what equity was worth. And he's like, all right, I'll give you a $10,000 guarantee a month, and I'll give you, 25% equity. I'm like, let's roll.
Yeah.
Like, dude, my bills were like $3,000 a month. Like, I didn't give a shit. $10,000 a month, I might as well have been making $100,000 a month, right? Like, this is when Sharky's down in Newport had like 2-for-1 cocktails. So I'm like, who cares, you know? Like, and so, dude, we scaled that thing, and unfortunately, he ended up having a pretty bad drug problem, and it was really sad, man, because he's a great dude, but drugs are terrible, like, and they grab a hold of your soul, and so that was like a massive fracture in our relationship. It was a massive fracture in the business, and like I kept giving him opportunities to remedy, to get help, and he just wouldn't. And so at some point I just was like, I was carrying the entire thing. And so I just said, hey man, like this is it. Like we got to fix this or I'm out. And, fortunately or unfortunately, he just said, fuck you. And I was like, okay. And so, dude, I still remember it to this day. My wife, Nicole, was then my newly found girlfriend. And, I said, hey, I'm leaving. And she's like, what? And like, I didn't have a ton of money because I was paying off all that debt, and like I exchanged my commission for equity, and now in a company that like was like going down. And so she's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to do what I've always done. I'm going to figure it out. And I was like, she's like, okay. I was like, but look, like my cell phone number, I still remember it to this day, 714-865-6418. I'm sorry, whoever has that number, because they're probably still looking for Nick Long. Call that number and just say, hey, is Nick here? Like,
I'm gonna do that.
I had ported that number to our company, and he owned, the number. So I said, hey, I crafted an email. It's actually from the email I still use to this day. It's nostalgic. The one you emailed me on. I created that email, and I grabbed all of our clients' phone numbers, emails, and everything, and I BCC'd everybody, and I sent my then girlfriend, now wife, to the Verizon store. I was like, look, the moment I hit send on this email, and I'm going to copy him on it, he's going to shut my phone off. Yeah. So you need to go to the Verizon store, you get me a phone number, text me the phone number, and I'm going to put it in my signature, and I'm going to send this email. And she's like, okay. So she goes to Verizon. I'm waiting, dude. My palms are sweating, my balls are sweating, and she's like, she texts me, 949-554-4204, right? Here's your new phone number. I key it in, Nick Long, 949-554-4204. I hit send, and the email was very, very, it wasn't like attacking him or accusatory. It was like, I can still remember it to this day, due to philosophical differences, I have decided to leave XYZ person and XYZ company. I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope our paths cross in future endeavors. Sincerely, Nick Long, my phone number. I hit send. Dude, sure as shit, 60 fucking seconds, my phone's nuked. Can't make a call out, can't get a call in. So I'm sitting around, and I had moved in with Nicole at the time. I'm sitting around just like, well, it seemed like a lifetime, She can't call me, I can't call her. I don't know what's going on, Dude, she comes running. I still get chills, dude. She comes running into the house. They're calling. The phone won't stop ringing. And I'm like, yeah. Her and I are like jumping around. And I'm like, give me the phone. I'm like, hey. And they're like, dude, tell me you're doing your own thing. I'm like, I am. They're like, we're fucking in. Tell me you're doing your own thing. I am. We're in. Dude, literally, like out the gate from Jump Street, $100,000.
Why do you think that was? Why do you think so many people came up to you?
Relationship equity, period, the end. Relationship equity, period, the end. I always did what I said I was going to do. I did more than I said I was going to do. I did things for them. I reached out to them. I had affirmations for them. I had gratitude for them. I would call them on birthdays. I knew their kids' names. Like, I knew the shit that was important to them. Therefore, I became important to them.
Yeah. I love that. So you created just strong relationships with people within your company and didn't treat them. You treat them like, hey, this is a relationship. This is like an actual
I treated everybody like a partner, not a prospect.
Wow.
And that's how I
probably why they wanted to work with you, right?
Bro, when I met you, like I knew you could spend a lot of money with me. I saw what you were driving. I saw your office. Like I knew the potential you represented to me monetarily.
Yeah.
But like I didn't go in there and try to hard sell you. Like I built a relationship with you. Like you and I haven't transacted, physical dollars in quite some time, but we still exchange like a relationship, and the meeting we had on Friday could generate us both multiple millions of dollars. But you trust me because I'm not trying to like flush out your pockets.
Yeah. No, you can see it too. You can tell by people how they act. But I think having that character, even when you're younger, and then now you still hold true to that value, it just shows you who you were before when you were kind of coming up, right? And then now, when you had that opportunity with the owner and you guys parted ways, everyone wanted to go work with you because they wanted to work with somebody that they believed in and then they trusted.
Bro, it was crazy, man. It was crazy. Like we got like the Inc. 5000. I don't know if it was around back then, but we definitely we would have given you and Direct Funding now a run for their money. We might have.
Oh, I bet.
A healthy.
I wouldn't want to compete.
No, because we went fast, dude. That company scaled to like 60, 70 million a year, like 500 employees, like so quick. All 100% built on relationships and
that
people
is
that like
rapid.
Yes, like I had relationships with the lowest level employee and my largest client, and I treated them all the same, and I would still do that to this day.
Yeah. So you grew that company quick. How fast was that kind of a hockey stick up, would you say?
So, dude, I think, it was within 2 years, 3 years, 2 years that we were doing 60 million a year. And,
60.
So 60, 500 people. We started a second company. It went to 8 figures within the first year. The problem was, Ken, is that I never experienced that type of liquidity. I went from being a millionaire on paper, which is just paper, right, to being a millionaire, in the truest form, in the liquid form, right, the dollar bills, yo, and I didn't have the emotional maturity that I have now, and so what was crazy is that like I was financially free, but I was emotionally bankrupt, bro, because
Hmm.
like I had this big hole and I had this big chip on my shoulder, and I thought when the money arrived, like I was gonna feel some sort of way, and I
Yeah.
did for a short period of time, but then like, you're a Lambo guy, I'm a Ferrari guy, the Ferrari just became a thing, the new watch became a thing, and
Fades.
yeah, it fades, man. And I actually took my now wife, then girlfriend, for granted, and
Yeah.
everything in my life became dispensable. And so like I broke up with her, and then my priorities became watches, women, and cars.
Yeah.
Fast cars, faster women, and blingy watches, and on any given day, the order in which those priorities fell, could change.
Yeah, and it's a bit. I mean, you're taking a huge like windfall of, and this is years of you mentally thinking, probably back from your 20 to 25 to how old you were then, and mentally you're thinking about making it.
Yeah.
Mentally, you're fantasizing
Dude, I,
about the
I was
cars,
in
the
it. I was in it to
houses.
win it. I was in it to win it since I was 14 when I first learned what an entrepreneur was.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that house, those toys, like those paintings, those watches. And then I finally arrived at my version of that house, those toys, those watches, flying private. I would watch the guys at the nightclub, when I wasn't making any money, pop bottles and be with the most beautiful women. I became that guy. I became the center of attention. And, I lost sight of actually who I was at my center, who I was at
yeah,
my core, and it was miserable, dude. Like it really
yeah.
was.
Well, I think when you get such a windfall like that, it's hard to manage it. It's you're managing not just a big company, but now you probably got a big ego, right?
Yeah.
Because you finally made it, and you're managing a lot of assets coming at you at once. How do you do that, right? It is very, very hard to be even killed, and there's only a handful of people that are just naturally built like that, But when you
Yeah.
fantasize and you dream of this life, then you finally get there, and you realize, crap, like I'm just like everybody else still, but you're kind of not. It's definitely like a mental thing more than it is like a physical thing, right?
It's
It's like that mental
100%,
battle.
and that's what I want to tell everybody that's listening to this right now and that follows you. Like what they're seeing is they're seeing with you and your life and the cars that you have and the lifestyle that you live. They're seeing the fucking years and years of you just being scrappy and fighting and
Hmm.
going through the suck and feeling the pain. But also like I believe that you are way more grounded than I ever was at your age, and I think that's probably because you grew up in a home with all these siblings and you had to probably be a lot more mature for your age than most, right? And so for those of you out there that thinks like money is going to change who you are, money is going to amplify who you already are, and you're going to solve money problems and expose like the real problems of your life, and that's why I'm so committed to what I do nowadays with kind of my holistic approach to investing, to private equity, to venture, to scale and sale, because like I'm more about the businessman,
Yeah,
businesswoman, than I am the business plan. The business plan is easy. It's
yeah,
blocking, it's tackling, it's sales, it's finance, it's marketing, it's HR, it's proper capitalization, it's culture. That's easy. The businessman is complex. The
yeah,
businessman is oftentimes broken. The businessman often has limiting beliefs. The businessman, like might not be broke, could be broken. And I've been
yeah.
that guy, and I've had to put Humpty Dumpty back together again several times. And now, like, I don't want anybody to fall off the wall. I want to erect kings and help them rise and create impact with their income.
Yeah. And no, and that's just and sometimes it's the man that actually breaks the company when they get to certain levels because
1,000%, dude. Look at some of the companies like WeWork and Uber and
yep.
like, dude, those guys were like great business idea, great vision, got people to buy in, but at some point, like they became the anchor and not the asset.
And it becomes a pressure cooker for that individual of just massive magnitude. So this company's blowing up. You and your wife, girlfriend at the time, are taking a break. Kind of go through that next phase of you got
Yeah.
a $60 million business. I know there's a lot of challenges there. If you can kind of share that real quick, and then we can kind of
Yeah,
jump
yeah,
into
yeah, yeah.
the
So
next.
and I could tell stories for days, dude. So, like especially about being an entrepreneur because I'm so passionate about
No,
it.
I love it. I get sucked into it. So I'm trying to be, respectful of your time because
No,
I can listen to this all day.
hey,
So
I'm good. I'm good. I got another podcast after this
yeah.
that you'll be coming on shortly, and then you'll be on my podcast. But yeah, no. So I sold that business. So my second exit, I sold that business in I think 2010, 2011, and to my partners, and I got out of it, and I was good. And I threw a crazy birthday. That was my 30th birthday. I threw a crazy birthday party. I spent $30,000 on my 30th birthday. It was
Wow.
it was called the Dirty 30, but it was a white party. I flew in a DJ. I had a band. Like it was crazy. This is $30,000 14 years ago. So it was probably be about like $100,000 today. It was
Yeah.
wild. But I was just in this dark place, man, and I because I was emotionally free, financially free and emotionally bankrupt. Like I created kind of my own financial prison, and I ended up just like investing and opening things that I had no business doing, bars, nightclubs. I got into oil and gas shit like I didn't even know about, hard money lending, like. And I think subconsciously I just wanted my money to go away so I could like reinvent myself and I could have that scrappy, heroic rise from the ashes. And that's exactly what happened. And my grandpa, who taught me a lot of my business acumen, he passed away. And when he passed away, like it really, like when he died, I resurrected. And I ended up like really kind of like reshaping like who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be known for. And this word legacy came like raging into my heart and my soul and my mind. And I hadn't talked to Nicole, that's my wife. I hadn't talked to her in 2.5 years, 3 years. I called her that night he died. And man, she hung up on me multiple times. But I finally just texted her and said, my grandpa died. I need to talk to you. Long story short, she let me just word vomit all over her, my sorries, and I'm an asshole, my apologies. She's like, okay, you feel better? I'm like, yeah. She's like, she hung up on me. Dude, I ran into her. I hadn't seen her in 2.5, 3 years. I physically ran into her 3 times in the next like 30 to 60 days. Like bump into her. And that moment of vulnerability, that moment of relationship equity, redeposit, like crack the hard shell, like ice sculpture over her heart. And I just kept blow torching it because I knew like this is my girl. This is my ride or die. This is my woman that was with me in the trenches when it mattered. And I threw her to the wayside. And yet she still kept a small place for me in her heart. And today, dude, our life is fucking amazing. Like we have 2 beautiful children and we have gone through the ringer together again. And so her and I get back together like after 2.5, 3 years. And she's like, if like you need to go in on this marriage, like you go in on your businesses and that's all fucking in and be willing to like ride this thing. And I'm like, I'm in. I can't do it. And I can't do it without you. We had $75,000 of debt. We had 2 cell phones. We had 1 car and a 2-bedroom like condo over by South Coast Plaza, but we had a big ass why. Like we had to pay for our own honeymoon. We had to like pay for our own wedding. Like we wanted to have children. I proposed to her with a cubic zirconia from Nordstrom's so I could return it. And I promised her, she knew it was a cubic zirconia. I said, I will put a real rock on your finger. I don't know how. I don't know when, but it will be before you and I get married. And I did before we said I do. And like we had a fucking world-class wedding that we paid for on New Year's Eve of 2013. We went on a world-class honeymoon for 3 weeks, Cambodia, Thailand, Macau, Hong Kong, and we came home pregnant, and we were very much pregnant with our business, and we gave birth to a beautiful baby, and we gave birth to a beautiful business, and we scaled that bitch with no investors, just being scrappy and locked arm in arm with a big ass Y. We scaled that to be the largest solar marketing agency in the country. Our customers were Solar City, which is now Tesla, Sunrun, Vivint. Dude, it was dope. It was so dope. And then we started a second 8-figure business. And I started to realize, it didn't matter if it was light bulbs, lug nuts, fucking auto warranties, or solar leads. It was the businessman that made the business plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And bro, I had a big vision for that because I was going to sell that thing for 50 million, 50 or more. I was going to have my real exit, to like private equity, family office, institution, strategic. I was going to use that 50 million, buy the real estate that I wanted, and then I was going to go find people like you and your brother, like that were like doing it, but like, and you guys are way more than doing it, but like find you probably 5 years ago. And then I was not only going to invest my capital was the easiest thing to invest. I was going to invest my mindset. I was going to invest my Rolodex. I was going to invest my scars. I was going to invest all my failures so that you didn't have to, and I could collapse time, and I could amplify the exit, and I could make a little piece, but put most of it in your fucking pocket. Because I didn't have a me when I was a you.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you had that thought too, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs too, like they have like, I call it fantasizing because this is the easiest way to describe it to somebody, but like you're a dreamer, right? So it's
Right.
interesting to know you had that thought of private equity essentially, right? Way back then, right? Hey, I'm going to sell my business, then I'm going to get into private equity, and obviously you're doing it now. But it's interesting to see, where you're at in the maturity level of your kind of entrepreneurial career, where you're like, hey, I'm going to scale the business, sell it, and then start investing. And it's just funny to think that little seed was planted way back then, but it's never the course, right? Like in your head, it's always like this, and it's like this.
I always say that like the destination never changes, but the road often does, right?
Yeah.
So like when you think about Rome, like we're going to Rome, and you've heard this, there's many roads to Rome, right? Many roads that lead to Rome, right? Rome itself does not change, like it doesn't pick up and move. It's not it's not an AI bot that jumps from here to here. Rome is Rome. It's longitude and latitude, and it stays there. The road to get there is many. And so like for entrepreneurs, like have your outcome, have a very specific destination and outcome, but don't be married to the fucking path in the journey. Like, dude, my roads have gotten nuked several times on the way to Rome. And even that company I built with my wife, like, we don't have a ton of time to get into it, but in 2018, I was worth, probably, I don't know, north of 35 million. And I say 35 million, but it was probably more because I got offered multiple millions for that company from a couple of different people, but one in particular, which is a publicly traded company. I was going to sell it, but I was like, nah, I'm going for 50. I didn't sell it. Ironically enough, that would be worth about $250 million these days because it was cash and stock. And I didn't do it. And a year later, I was forced to sell it by the U.S. government. I got taken on by the Federal Trade Commission, and like people can think what they want, but hopefully they know after COVID that the government can do whatever they want to whoever they want, whenever they want, however they want, for whatever reason they have, and they did, and they wiped me out financially. They wiped me out, Ken, financially, like, and I almost let them wipe me out emotionally.
Yeah.
But I had my ride or die woman. I had my 2 beautiful children. And more importantly, dude, I had more fucking knowledge than I had ever had. I had more experiences and people in my Rolodex like you than ever.
Yeah.
And I realized they couldn't take the man, the mindset, the skill set, and the Rolodex that built it all in the first place. And I had everything I needed, which was my wife and my kids and a roof over my head. And bro, like on the heels of that, and this is businessman over business plan, like I created my little entrepreneur, incubator community, which you were at that first event. We did $1 million. It was my first $1 million day.
Wow.
My first $1 million day in 24 hours because it was never the business plan. It was the businessman. Now, if your business plan sucks and you're selling rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong, we might want to rethink that. But if you got a decent business plan, like, and you can learn and be the right businessman, we can scale almost any business to 8 or 9 figures.
Well, I think, I remember when during COVID, like that affected our company pretty heavily. We lend to small businesses. All businesses in the U.S. were essentially shut down besides these mega corporations. Our industry got essentially kind of wiped out overnight, right? So kind of very similar to yours. Obviously, your situation is different, but regardless, the outcome was the same. The business got demolished, right?
Yeah, the outcome was we had no income.
100%, yeah. There's no income coming in. I wasn't starting any new business at that time. But you learned so much during the scale up, because I had about 50 employees at the time, that you learned so much. And I always say this, like you learn like the blueprints, right?
Right.
Of what it takes to grow and scale a company. for some reason that gave me confidence in like the wee hours of the night, thinking like, is this thing ever gonna end? Are they ever gonna, is this in my industry dead? Like, what do I do, right? But I just knew that I learned so much, and I became somebody, regardless of if I had a business or not. And it's super interesting. And I'm sure you can share that same thought of you grew something. They can take money, business, all that stuff away, but they can't take what's in between your ears, right?
Dude,
Which is your mindset and your beliefs and your drive, and also your knowledge you have. And I think that is that's the key that unlocks any other venture that you do moving forward if you want it, right?
Right. And that's it. I mean, then that's why I'm so grateful that I invested heavily into myself. That was you, your brother, your people in your company. Those are the greatest assets in a company. The human life value is the one that actually makes the equity value. And so I invested heavily into mentors and masterminds. I created my own masterminds and had people come in, and I hang out with people like you that give me permission to think differently, right? And I watch your company. I'm inspired by you and your company and this podcast. And I realized I did let them take it temporarily because it was hard to go from
it always does.
$35 million net worth to negative million, overnight. But when I realized they can't take the man, they can't take the mindset, the skill set, the Rolodex that built it all, bro. That's how I came back and did $1 million in one day. And now, dude, the transactions I'm doing now, dude, you've seen the companies I've helped scale from 3 million to 20 plus million. I was just on a call with a guy, we'll likely get him over $500 million, for his company. So now, I'm the conduit to clarity first. And then I'm the conduit to connections next. I'm the conduit to culture on top of that. And then when all of those things come together, I'm the conduit to capital. Because I cannot get you capital if you're not investable. And if you're not investing in yourself, I don't even want to talk to you. Because that's nothing I will touch or let my investors in touch.
Yeah, no, and I think it's just, as you've gone through all these different challenges and hurdles, you just continue to push forward. You continue to drive the train forward, and it's just who you are, And I think you find these things that you have passion for, which is entrepreneurship, the men and the women that run these companies, and now you can integrate it with a business plan, right? So the businessman and the business plan. You've always been the businessman, but now your business plan changed a little bit, and now you got a new company that you're launching. Can you share a little about your private equity push? And I'm calling it private equity, and you can explain a little bit.
Thank you for that. For the last couple of years, I've been heavily involved on the investment banking side, the mergers and acquisition side. So basically being that conduit to capital, we have access to, I say this tongue in cheek, but it's a real number, trillions. There's billions and trillions of dollars of dry powder sitting on the sidelines right now looking for good opportunities. Capital is abundant, good opportunities is scarce. And so what I've been really good at, like an entrepreneurial truffle pig, is to sniff out and find good people like you and a company I took you to on Friday, and help them see and shift the paradigm that they have an opportunity to sell their company. So we have an M&A arm that I'm a partner in. It's called Meritage Partners, and where we align capital for the right opportunities. The guy that runs that, he's a brilliant mind. I'm more of the business development guy, and so I've rebirthed the next 90, and the next 90, is my container, my community, chasing the next 90, the next quarter after quarter, and really getting entrepreneurs clear on when the time is to transact. And when the businessman aligns with the business plan, and we build out the right exit, strategy, and we transact, it's called the next 90 because it's the numbers and the narrative, right, meet the transaction trigger. So it's actually NXT90. And right in the center where those two things collide is the fucking exit. And then we take you over to our M&A firm, and dude, white glove service, walk you into the biggest private equity firms, and they are frothing at the mouth because they know that we've done the work. We've spent 12, 24 months working both on the businessman and the business plan. And bro, what we get for people would blow your mind.
Yeah.
Normal valuation multiples are not normal in our world. In fact, those are
Yeah.
like abnormal and subpar.
And most entrepreneurs don't really, if you haven't gone through an exit before, you're not going to know how to like position yourself for like a massive exit, right?
Exactly.
So having someone like you in the corner being like, hey, you need to be playing with these numbers, you need to be pushing this probably, department more or less or whatever it is, so you can create essentially the best picture to sell, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, that's
you're
what
an
I do.
artist.
Like everybody's gonna have an exit, right? Like you're gonna have an exit. You're gonna run your business into the ground. You're gonna, build yourself out of a job. You're gonna hand it off to the next generation. You're gonna scale it and sell it like the entrepreneurs you probably look up to, or you're gonna die. Like so,
Yeah.
everybody's gonna exit, right? Most people are the first and the last. They run their business into the ground, and then they go, "Oh, business is hard. I wasn't meant for me," or they die trying, or they physically die along the way, right? And so, like what I do is I get in like long before, and I'm like, "Look, like let's build the exit on your terms." And these are the things you need to look for. These are the things you need to look out for. This is how you need to operate as a human being, as a man, as an entrepreneur, like, because your business is merely a reflection of you. And so we bring them into the next 90 container, right? And we run these cohorts, like super tight. And they're like Navy SEAL swim buddy teams, and where the guy to your left and your right have your fucking back, but they also share your pain. And then you have me, kind of like overarching, looking at all of this, giving you a play-by-play blueprint of how to maximize your enterprise value and teach you about something that's way more important, which is eternal value.
Yeah.
Because, dude, you're in your 30s, bro. Like you're going to scale and sell this business, and then you're going to still be young. Everybody talks about the exit, but nobody talks about the reentry. And I provide them an opportunity to re-enter and put that capital to work, but more importantly, go to work for the next generation. Like the 90 is like how old you and I will likely live to, right? And our generation will live to 90. So we're really chasing this 90 years and the next 90, which is in the next generation. So it's this whole play. Dude, it's wildly powerful, bro. And the results are off the chart.
Yeah, and I've been just kind of sitting back watching what you've been doing in it, and it's just obviously the numbers and the exits and the people that you're helping out. This is going to be a massive play for you, and I think it's not just obviously the money's great, but I think you're finally meeting like your destination of like who you are as a person and a business man.
Dude, I'm
right?
telling you, like I'm going back to that 12-year-old self. I'm going back to that 28-year-old self. The young entrepreneur, the 21-year-old self. I'm going into the 30-some-odd self. I'm 44, and it's like we got together like Voltron, for my homies out there that are old enough to remember what Voltron is. Google it if you're not. Like, and I combined all those personalities and edifications and, evolutions of who I am to be the man I am today, for the people who are out there like wanting to scale and sail but don't know how.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I can give them a step-by-step blueprint. And if they're willing to invest in themselves, then I can find people who are willing to invest in them, me being one of them, both emotionally and monetarily, dude. And it's going to be insane. And the money, you're right, is going to be great. But the income is a byproduct of me being focused on the outcome.
Yeah. And I think, I finally realized like, hey, I know the cheesy saying you hear a lot now, like the more people help, the more money you're going to make. But it is actually true. Like you cannot make money without people. You know what I mean? Like unless you're building out some AI, but you still need people to use your AI, right? Whatever it is, it's the people. The more people you help, the more people you have impact with. And by impact, meaning like there's some potential in their life to improve their life or an opportunity or whatever that is. Then in return that you can achieve these goals. So the larger the impact, the larger the exit, the larger the the potential for yourself to change your life, and not just your life financially, but your kids and your future generation.
All right, dude, that's what I want. Like I want generational health, generational wealth. I want to help people cure their generational wounds and transform them, not transmit them, and leave something far greater than just some materialism. I want them to live a life of material value, and that's this overarching eternal value that I'm teaching people how to build enterprise value, so that churches, charities, companies, whatever, they can impact with their income because they were driven towards a singular outcome.
And I think that's ultimately, this is going to be your calling card for, what you've done in your entrepreneur career, helping out.
Mark my word, Ken. Like, I will own the exitpreneur space. I will be the guy that like creates, all the exit education. I'm going to create all of that. Like, I'm going to come one, come all. Let me help you stand tall. Like, let me bring you to the forefront of the private capital markets, private equity, family offices, and let's put our big boy pants on and let's make some income and let's create some massive outcomes, with that money.
I love it. I think that's a great place to end it. But before we, end it here, where can people find you? Where can they follow you at? If anybody's listening and they're, hey, I got a business that I potentially want to sell, or I need to figure out, can I even sell this thing? How can people get a hold of you? How can they reach you?
Super easy. Just Instagram's the best place. It's at Nick Long, just my name, at Nick Long. If you can remember this site, you can go to Exit DD. That's Exit double D, like boobies. ExitDD.com. And that stands for Discovery Day. That's the entry point for me, is to get in on a Discovery Day. Let's unearth the opportunity. The link is in my bio in my Instagram. So at Nick Long on my Instagram, click the link in the bio, or exitdd.com, fill out the form, and let's have a conversation.
That's awesome. And we'll link all your websites below and your socials, but everyone needs to follow Nick Long. This guy is not just an entrepreneur, but he's a thought leader of our current entrepreneurial generation. I think so. And I'm not just saying baby. That. Yeah, exactly. And to rub shoulders with you, to be in your, network and your bubble, the people that the people that you've impacted. That's why I'm doing this stuff in the podcast. I'm not asking for a financial reward from it. I'm asking to network and to learn from, because there comes a point where you almost get to, mentally, maybe you've outgrown your situation. And as an entrepreneur, you can either just say, hey, I've made it to my level, or I can start working and networking with guys like you and Wi-Fi Money and Peter Kill, all these guys that we've had on so far, and open your eyes of the possibility of there's so much more opportunity out there. And by opportunity, that means impact. And again, I appreciate you coming on. Everyone follow Nick and watch his journey, take small business owners to large businesses to exit. So again, thank you so much.
I'm so proud of you, bro. You've built such a good business. You are a masterful networker, and I'm just honored to be in your presence and been honored to be on the show.
I love it, man. Thank you so much, brother.